And good evening, everyone. A very late evening in the United Kingdom, and in the morning in Australia and New Zealand. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Galen. Nice to see everybody, and Mel and Cathy. Is it, my head's asleep. And there you are.
There you are. Wow, what an adventure you had.
No, didn't I? It was good.
It was fantastic. I love the boots, love the hats.
Oh, it was
Peggy's
the
boots.
hat. It was the hat that did it. The hat that did it for the whole thing. I wore that hat all day.
It was fantastic.
I know.
Oh, I'm so pleased. It was well deserved. You needed the break.
And San Jose was just brilliant. It was out of this world. It was just, mind you, Dana did, like make me eat every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Forced me to eat every
Hi,
day.
Dan.
But yeah, so we decided that originally we were talking about pilots, weren't we?
We were.
And how many
We were.
pilots that they use. And I suppose it's a good, that your pilot can suddenly go away somewhere. I'm not sure that a pilot would be actually sat in the cockpit looking for a woman, to be honest.
I prefer him to fly the plane.
Yeah, I do. Concentrate on flying the plane. And yeah, instead of, sort of texting a woman, but it just shows they'll use anybody.
They
They,
will do.
and you see lots of pilots are bloggers, so they put plenty of pictures on, which, is a current thing to do, and they should be allowed to do that, I think. But
Mm.
I had a lady this morning back again to us that made me think of something for tonight, because she comes to us a lot. And so she said, "Do you know this person?" So I told her who the person was. Do you know this one? So there was another one. So I told her who the person. They're all, hi Candy. They're all, sort of relatively well known ones. And every time she comes to us, I say to her that it doesn't matter who it is when they're contacting you on Facebook, as they are all going to be fake.
Of course they are.
But she doesn't like that advice.
And what amazes me is they're talking to them and they're developing a relationship. It's not a friendship, but it's a relationship.
Yeah.
And yet they haven't had a video call with them.
Nope.
Or if they've had a video call, it's been a 30-second video call. Hi, Candy. It's been a 30-second video call, and it's all robotic.
And the thing is that this woman, she talks to them until they get to the money bit. So that she's obviously talking to them for more than a couple of days. She talks to them until they get to the money bit. And then she comes to us and says, is it fake? Because he's starting to ask for money. Well, I reckon, okay, we get victims who will hopefully only be in the one scam. So take your scam, Cathy. When you had your scam, you didn't have anything to measure it against.
No.
So everything that happened in your scam was happening to you for the first and only time.
Mm.
So you didn't, what I'm trying to say is this lady is speaking to lots and they all sound the same. I'm sorry, but they do.
It's the same script.
So she, to me, she's got she's got a reference there from all the others. And isn't it funny they all call her Honey and Babe? And isn't it funny they all have, a dead wife or a, wife who's slept with the best friend or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and they all say the same things. Where are you from and where do you live now? And have you got any family and everything? And surely, hi Gina, when
Hey,
when you
Gina.
get conversations like that,
Mm.
they aren't really normal. I mean, they're not really.
Mm.
Good evening, ladies and Dana. Isn't Dana a lady? Just, just throwing that out there. Um, it is candy. It is this, and this is my complaint, if you like, against people who are talking to many of them. It should be obvious. It's like watching the same TV show over and over. If you think of you have a favorite TV show and it's on every night of the week, but it's different people in the cast, but they use the same script.
Mm.
Hi, Caesar. Wouldn't you think,
I-
well, this is a bit stupid, you know?
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and and she just, I'm sure she thinks we're lying to her because you see, she doesn't want them to be fake.
Mm.
Ruth, Dana was what? Dana was the first person I seen when I clicked it. I'll let you off. I do know. I was only trying to be. I was only trying to be funny, but at this time of night, I'm not anything. Um, Happy 4th of July, Caesar. I
Yeah.
hope the kids are going to enjoy the fireworks later.
Mm. Mm. It, Ruth, it is. It's the same script. It doesn't matter what occupation they are.
Oh,
And with scammers, when they first come to you, they will groom you. They'll find out all the information about
oh,
you.
and they'll
They'll
be
find
so nice.
yes, it'd be lovely, and they want to know all about your family. They want to know what you do for an occupation. If you own your own home, if you own a car, and they'll even actually have the gall to ask you how much money do you make a year.
Oh yeah, yeah. But
That
it's
is
really good.
so
But
right.
it's really good fun when you tell them sort of like $300,000.
Mm,
Because I like
mm,
Twitter, and I like to wind them up a little bit on Twitter. And I told one of them that he asked me I said I ran a business, and he asked me what my business was, and I said, well, actually, I said I have a factory, and I said we manufacture fake handbags, and I did a brilliant AI picture. I was so proud of it, of people working in a factory packing Louis Vuitton, and there's actually handbags and everything in crates, and with a sticker of Nigeria on the outside. And I said, and
gosh.
and I said, we sell them in the designer malls in Lagos. And I said, there is a one near Lekki Bridge. And I said, they really go down well there. And this guy actually believed me. And he said, how much does that make you? I said, oh, on a bad year, it's 300,000. I said, but it could be anything upwards of that. And, because I won't talk to them for very much longer than that, because I haven't got the patience.
You've
But
only got
I did enjoy that one. Um,
mm,
but again today, and I wish people would realize, I wish people would learn, because we have them answering to pilots, we have them answering to doctors, we have them answering to everybody. And we're talking about a script. So I used to say my late husband was a banker. Yeah. Well,
oh, that's priceless. I like that,
oh,
Gina. Thank you.
well, actually, in my case, it's not far wrong from the truth. Um, yeah. So this one was being John J. Irwin, which I quite found was quite amusing because he thought John J. Irwin did all his own singing. But I sort of like, all the girls were having a go at him on Warner's. And he said, hello, honey, thanks for massaging me. Well, I don't get that close to anybody. And I'm happy to have you as my fan. So I said, I'm not messing about. I said, how are the weather conditions in Nigeria today? And then he went on to, please, Ma, I'm really sorry. I'm a poor African boy. I really don't have a source of income. That's why I'm doing this, Ma. This wasn't my intention to do this, but my condition over here made me engage myself in this place. Forgive me. I don't have whom to help me. If I have whom to help me, I will automatically stop this. I swear, Ma. No excuse. But I wish, hello,
Hi,
Alicia.
Lee.
I wish people knew what was behind them.
As I always say, Ruth, they only need to turn that camera on for 10 seconds and everything will be down the drain.
I had one not long ago, and they were using Edward. And they did a video call and they kept the light down. And they did a video call for about 10 minutes saying it was him. And all she said to me was, well, I couldn't quite see him, but I could see he had black skin. But they were using Edward Bryan. So they were pretending. Mind you, he had a Nigerian accent, but they were using that, which I thought was low, really, really low. But everything we talk about always comes back to the same thing. There's nothing new in scamming.
It does. You know, Ruth, this week and last week, as you know, we've been really, really busy here in Australia and New Zealand. And I've had 8 come to me. And that's a lot. That is a lot. And a couple of them have actually been talking to 3 at once.
Yes. Oh, Sandy had one of those, yes. I mean, Sandy had one that was paying them all. Can I just answer Gina? Gina Ma is because they are taught politely to call people madam. So Ma is short for madam, not mother. It's still vile, but they think it's polite to
I
call a
don't like
woman Ma.
I don't like madam because in madam it means a different connotation. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, but it's you know, it's just. But there's no excuse. I mean, he hasn't got a source of income, so he's going to scam. There are plenty of people without a source of income. There are plenty of poor countries in Africa, and they don't scam. Of 140 countries in Africa, Sandy and I were doing this last week, Nigeria is 109th. So there's 108 poorer countries than Nigeria, but they don't scam. They scam because it's easy. And they use people like Caesar because it's the perfect crime if they use people like Caesar. And the women think, but the women are paying because they think it's Caesar. But why can't we get it into their head that nobody would need money? Just everybody be mean, for God's sake. You know, any decent man in the world would not ask a woman for money.
Oh, God, no. Definitely not.
And yet they get paid. Scam. It's a well, I know, Caesar. I don't know how you bear it.
I know he's a
No,
pretty,
I was
pretty
telling.
nice.
Yeah, well, I was telling the girls. I think you saw it. Somebody said to me that I don't blame them using Caesar because he looks like a dashing cavalier. I just had a new vision of Caesar in my head. It's sort of like with the Zorro sort of thing. When 5 different people send Guy, it's just Jane, calm down.
We're giving him heaps this morning. Sorry, Caesar.
Yeah, El Dashing Cavalier.
Yeah,
But it's very sad that you talked to a victim today, didn't you?
Yeah, I did last night. I did.
Last night,
and
yeah.
and I look. I was blown out of the water because the daughter had gone to you first, and then you referred the daughter to us. Lovely, lovely young lady, very astute, very well spoken, and she was desperate for a mother. And she had approached her mother quite a few times, and her mother was very, very secretive. Didn't want anybody to know about it.
Yeah.
And she was, yeah, she just wouldn't believe it. And so I had another video call with the daughter last week, and I explained what we could offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said I would talk to your mum and this man. I said don't get aggressive with her or
I know
impatient.
it's so
Yeah,
difficult, isn't it? Because they do want to lose the temper with them.
it
It's
is.
natural.
Yeah, and just give her the understanding and the love that she needs and the support. And you might be surprised. Well, I got a message. Cathy, Mum wants to talk to you. I was blown away. And I spent an hour and a half with her last night on a video call. She was brilliant.
And you
She
see,
was so.
I think the video calls that we do make all the difference because
It,
we're not 10-second wonders. You know, we
mm,
sit in front of the camera and, and,
mm.
and we prove who we are every time.
That's exactly right. And that's what I said to her. I said, scammers will not video call you. I said, we like to be transparent with our
Hmm.
victims, and we like to see,
Yeah.
we like victims to see us and that we are genuine and we're very passionate and we want to support them and we want to get them out of their scams.
Yeah.
So I was delighted. I was really, really happy. And she is willing to work. And she was genuine, Ruth. She was
Yeah.
genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So I
think,
was really.
don't you think sometimes it comes as a relief to them because
Oh, yes.
because the scammer is turning them in knots, chewing them up in knots. And, by the time it gets really further on in the scammer gets very demanding
Mm,
and very even more controlling than the gentle control goes to full on control. And so
mm.
I find that sometimes they're a bit relieved that they
What I,
can
well, what
share
I,
it with us. Yeah.
that's right, well, what I did with her last night, I actually had a family intervention where I had not only her, I had her daughter on the phone too,
Yeah.
and explained to her that I was totally honest, and I said, we've got to be totally honest here. And I said, nothing, I will never ever label you or victim shame you. I just want you to be totally honest with me. I know what's been going on. And I was honest with Michelle, sorry, I was honest with the lady, and I was honest with the victim, and it was wonderful. And she felt like her whole body had lifted.
It is. Yeah, you can feel it when you talk to them, can't
Mm,
you? And as I said,
mm,
the last one I did, it was just like what I was telling her was happening, but she was closing her mind to it.
mm,
And it was, even just, I mean, I love it that the fact the scammers use formats and scripts
mm,
because we can quote them. We can say, well, look, you would have got the last thing at night. Sleep well, babe, and dream of me. And first thing in the morning, hope you slept well and have you eaten. Even little things like that they do, we can tell the victim we know that's what they do because it's part of the format. And so it does help us that bit. I quite like it, the fact that
mm,
basically they're so rubbish, really. But it's what is in their mind, like this kid today, what is in their mind that they are justified in doing it. And that's, I think, gets to me more than the money bit. Because the
mm.
money's straightforward theft. It's where it's the way they tell you why they do it. I mean, they're not the thieves, they're liars and thieves. If they would, I think more of them, I think, if they come out and said, I'm a scammer, I'm a liar, I just, I'm too lazy to work, this is the way I get my money,
Mm, mm.
which is the
And
truth.
right, and you talking about the scripts, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Like all of us, I have got the playbook, and I've
Hmm.
actually read it from front to back. Holy moly! What an eye opener,
Have you
you
got the
know?
one with the sex scene in the middle? Because I had one.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I have. What an education! And I'm
yeah. I was reading
pornographic.
it through and I was thinking, my goodness to me, who
Mm,
wrote that? Oh,
mm,
they should be,
mm.
Gina. It's and it's I'll say it again, and I'm boring, but it's a phenomenon we can't talk about because if we talk about it, we're racist. But it's not. I don't care. They could be Albanian, they could be
Mm,
Yugoslavian, they could be British, they could be Australian. I don't care.
mm.
I would do exactly the same as we do now.
Oh, never,
It's
ever,
just that
ever.
it makes it worse. The fact that they, you know, I'm going to I'm going to show you how sorry. Let me find him. I'm going to show you how sorry the boy is that scams as John J. Irwin. You can tell the
Hmm.
remorse on his face.
Oh, what a precious boy. Disgusting. Mm.
I mean, look at them. They don't even care.
Mm.
But
No.
but it's very difficult. I mean, and it is the fact. I'm not talking about dating sites. It's a whole different ball game. But if you get a friend or a follow request from a stranger, it will be fake. It will
And
be.
you're not just talking to one scammer.
No.
You're talking to many. And like you, Ruth, you've probably seen it too. I've seen a child of about 8 years old scamming.
Yeah. I think this is just me trying to work things out from what I know. I thought it was a school. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is school, Gina. It is at school.
Mm.
It
Mm.
Yeah, he does have a beard, which is a bit weird, but you know.
Oh, God.
Well, either that or it's a penitentiary. I can't work out which it is. Um Might not be a school, I just assumed it was. Um
They do, Candy. Yeah.
But why can't they be honest about that? And it is all that they care about is getting
Mm.
the money. You are nobody to them. And when they recruit these younger ones, um, I have a theory that they set them off and let them sit there and say, right, you go through Instagram, you go through TikTok, you go through Facebook, and just send out these requests
Mm.
and see how many, because you don't need any skill for that. So you've got the ones on the bottom who are going to be the hunters that's going to just send it all out and send it all out. And if they get anybody back, because we've all done it, if you answer them back, there's a gap before you get somebody else talking to you. And I think if they get a hit, they go to the next one up.
Mm.
But I've seen really young kids with big necklaces around their necks and Kelvin Klein clothes, and they have been really, really young. Now, they then say, well, yeah, I really want to go back to school, but I haven't got any money. I don't know how long they think they're going to last scamming, because it's going to come.
Mm. Mm.
But people,
Mm.
like the lady that I had last week, one of the most difficult things to get through to her was who she was talking to because she couldn't get the guy out of her head. And he wasn't one of the ones he'd been used before, but he wasn't one of the common used ones. So I couldn't say, look, there's 5,000 Austin Scott
Mm.
Miller.
Mm.
Um, but I could say, well, this is him. He's doing this, and this is his business, and you can see that it's his business. Yeah, Gina, but if you say to, I like it when you say to them, well, you've got gold around your neck. Oh, it's not real. Yeah, all right. You've got an iPhone. You've got gold around your neck, but you're starving. Um, but what does it take for people to say no, or hesitate a bit? If we could get them to get that friend request, but then have a look to see who is contacting them and think why.
Mm. And it's, people have got to realize that they're actually in love with an image
And words, that's all.
and words
Yeah.
and all the beautiful phrases. It's all copy and paste off the internet. Anybody can do, you know, and it's oh God, it's evil. It's sickening. It makes me, well, yeah, it makes me sick.
It does, but they the words that they're sending you, most of the time, they don't even understand themselves. They just copy and paste.
Mm,
That's all it is. And it's so simple. I mean, it is, it's a very simple, low cost, um, trying to get into, because you can scam the money
mm,
for a new iPhone. You can scam the money for you can get a laptop sent to the daughter with the nanny in New York. I mean, you know, um,
mm,
and that's it, Candy. You see, they're looking at the pictures, and one of the hardest things to actually break the bond between the victim and the pictures.
mm,
And they will say to us that they'll come back. You just think you got somewhere. And they'll come back and say, I've just found another fake account on Facebook. He's still at it.
mm.
And it's like trying to explain to them that it might not even be the same scammer team. Because we know the buy and sell, you know, sets of pictures. We've seen it, um, military album in a swap for some sort of format, celebrity format. We've seen it on their groups.
Mm.
So you see, 5,000 Austin Scott Millers. It could be 2,000 different scanner teams. And this is it, Candy, promise of fairy tale endings. There's no such thing as a fairy tale ending. There's nothing that doesn't cost you. Nothing
And
comes
I
free.
really, really liked Rebecca's analogy the other day, where she said it's like having your life raped.
Mm.
That is so true.
We
When
were
you really
once criticised.
look at it,
We were once criticised, Rebecca and I, a long time ago, very badly for saying it was like rape, and we got really and said there's nothing to compare to a physical rape, and we were wrong to
mm,
compare. And well, we both said we stand by that, because you can, um, there's a rape of the emotions, and that's fairly physical, because it's disrupting your body and your life. And it has the same bad effect on it. It has the same real hit, you know,
mm.
and you don't get over it.
The
It's a
consequence,
violation.
yeah, well, the consequences of a scam, I can only just go by what I experienced as far as the emotions were concerned, was, um, mind you, I'm blessed with a beautiful family, but if I didn't have a family, can you just imagine how soul destroying, how easy it would have been to give up?
Yeah,
And unfortunately,
plenty do.
that happened. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's
Far too many do. And we know that the scammers don't care about that. The notch on their belt. That's all.
we're just a business transaction to them. You know that they
And
give two hoots about our life, about our families, about our psyche. Not at
They,
all.
I mean, they quite like it if you send them. Some kids, adult kids, are more worried about losing their inheritance. uh, yeah, they are, but I can sort of even think about that, Gina, because if you've got parents who are fairly affluent, um, then I would hate that money to be going over to Nigeria to a scammer. I mean, they could get they could get as much inheritance as I got from my parents.
Mm.
None. But that's another story. Um, but that was to do with my father.
Mm.
But never mind. Um,
Mm.
but I can see that if you've got a fairly affluent family, and your parents have got a bit of money to one side, I would be very, very upset if that money had all gone to Nigeria, you know. And
I've had victims who have actually they've sold their house
Mhm.
and they have sent the proceeds over to their scammer. That's awful.
But you see, Cathy, here's something that I don't understand again. That we had a lady who had sold it. We were talking to the daughter again in this one. She believed him implicitly. They were going to buy a house. He was going to buy her a truck. They were going to live happily ever after in La La Land or wherever it was. And then he asked her to sell the house because he had to pay the money on this house. He'd already paid most of it, but he needed her money to finalize the house, so she sold her house. And she was living in her car.
Mm.
And he knew that. The scammers knew that. And then they said to her, honey, this is the final bit and we're nearly there. But can you
How many
get me a
times?
loan? Can you get me a loan for $15,000 because I need to pay the lawyer? And at that point, the penny dropped with her. She really sort of was living in her car because she wouldn't live with the daughter. She knew she could live with the daughter if she wanted to, but she wouldn't because the daughter didn't believe in the man. So she wouldn't go there. And they got the money for that house. She was living in her car. And they asked her for, if you just go and get a loan, because it's only going to be a short-term loan. And then we can get all the legal proceedings done. That is the cruelty of scammers. Because what do you do when you get to the end of the scam? You get asked for more.
You're right, Ruth, because when the money starts, every conversation contact that you have with that scammer, they will not ask you about how, I mean, they might say, oh, have you eaten, or how was your day? Full stop. And then they will get onto the money. And it's the same conversation
Mhm.
every time.
It is,
Oh,
but what I've noticed with a few people who've sent us, I'll show you the chat. Um, it's they ask for the money, but immediately before the money is, I think you're so beautiful, honey. But
mm,
if you could just get that, how many $100 and get it sent to me, honestly, I love you. I can't wait to be with you. So the ask for money is sandwiched between two things.
mm.
Two
It's a
bits,
sealant.
yeah. So in theory, and I think it works, the victim is more interested in the you are so beautiful, honey, and I love you very much. Oh, I'll just get the money to him. They don't see the money as a big ask.
Mm.
Um,
Very
I
true.
and they seem to ignore it and just send the money, and yeah, it is And I'm going to say it because I said it the other night, and I'm going to say it again. It is the biggest crime in the world.
Amen. It is.
And it is
It is.
ignored, but it is the biggest crime in the world. They are sat there in a central point. They have the whole of the world to work with. And when you think about it, they've got Australia and New Zealand on one side, and they've got all points on the other side. They've got Europe, they've got the Americas, they scam in every country, and they're
Worldwide.
getting vast amounts of money.
Mm, mm,
And they are just sat there with the world at their feet, basically, because they can pick on anybody that they can find on social media, which is most people.
mm. You know, I always remember with me, the day that I went to the bank manager when, because this my scammer sent me $15,000, and I know that it was muled money. I know that now,
Yeah.
but I always remember having the scammer in one ear on the phone, the bank manager in the other ear, and the scammer is telling me, "Don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Blah 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 blah. And in the end, I actually said to him on the phone, I said, "Look, I can't deal with this anymore. I'll put you on as the bank manager." As soon as I said that, he hung up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've started to say to people, because, when you probably get it as well, when you're talking to a woman, there's a little gap before she answers you. And usually she's talking to the scammer at the same time and saying what we say.
Mm.
And so and they'll come back and say, well, he said they're in Syria. He said they're doing this. He said they're doing that. And I'll say, well, look, if he's so certain about who he is, get him to contact me here and I'll accept it. And I'll tell you I accept it, and I'll apologize to you. They've never done it yet. I, yes,
Gina's on fire tonight. I love it.
she is. And it's a bit late for Gina, actually. Biggest and easiest time to get away with, because nothing gets done about. The thing is, Jen, that I'll go back to saying it's the perfect crime because they know nothing is going to get done about it. Because if you think about it, um, what actually can be done? Because you've got the scammer who lives in West Africa. I mean, some of them don't. They get out of West Africa and they scam from America. But for the sake of argument, at the moment, they live in West Africa. And so that's where the money's going back to eventually. That's where everything's coming from. And you can't, your police can't get in their car and tootle off to Nigeria to get him. And if they do, how do they find out who he is? Because he's hiding behind pictures, stolen pictures. He's hiding
Mm.
behind that. He's got a voice over
Yeah.
internet protocol number.
Mm.
He has got money mules, so the money isn't even going direct to him, it's going via other victims. And at the end, he's our little scam boy. And he is totally, totally protected by anonymity and distance. And that is why they get away with it so much. Oh, yeah, the scammers can be quite rude when you question them. One called me and told me to leave his girlfriend alone. He was real. I said Ruthie's voice, and what he said, he wasn't real. But it was a good call, though. It really was.
Hi, Sandy. Mm.
But it's sort of, it's not changing, and it should. And we can't do it on our own. We need the publicity. But when the publicity comes along, so many people, you see something on social media that, our hair beautiful and things like that. You get people underneath and, oh, people aren't still falling for that. I've got no sympathy for them. And absolute disgrace. Nobody. So it's going to go on because people pretend they don't care.
Talking about that Hey Beautiful, one of my victims said to me, one of the eight that said to me, oh yes, I watched the Hey Beautiful episodes, but it was all Americanized. Now they were talking about the FBI and so forth. And I said to her, yes, the production was done in America, but it's the actual physical script.
Yeah, yeah. The scam wasn't Americanized. The scam was
No,
international,
that's right.
and I'm not American. And yeah, of course they were talking about the FBI and things like that. I mean, one thing that we talked about when they were here was the lack of action for the FBI does, but also, Cathy, I mean, Sandy will back me up on this. We've talked to FBI and oh, what do you call them? You know, the special people, Secret Service.
Oh,
We've
secrets.
talked,
Yeah.
we've talked to them,
Mm.
and there's not a lot that they can do. They are as frustrated as anybody else. We've got two FBI officers that we send quite a lot of Bitcoin wallets to, and
Mm.
both of them are called Mark. So I send them to Mark and Mark, and they are very frustrated because they can look into the Bitcoin wallets and there's not anything they can do. They can, and they do these. I mean, he once sent me a diagram of what they do, and it, phew, I couldn't
Over
understand a word.
the
But
head.
with a Bitcoin wallet, and Bitcoin is something that's used by scammers so much. How many
Mm-hmm.
people in real life do you know who use Bitcoin?
Mm.
And they can go in the Bitcoin wallet and they can say that it goes to here, 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 and here. But they can't do anything because one, you cannot reverse a transaction into a Bitcoin wallet. So you can never ever recover money from a Bitcoin wallet. And it is anonymous.
Very true.
So
Very true.
what can it doesn't
Mm.
matter if it's the FBI. It can be anybody on the planet. They cannot do anything with the money that's paid in Bitcoin.
And this is why I wish it was universal, because down here in Australia, I always tell the victims to go and make a police report.
Hmm.
And then the police report, they'll get an affidavit signed and everything. They will take that along to the bank, and that weighs heavily on the
Yeah,
decision, because they realize that that victim has taken, their time to explain. And it's wonderful that the police down here are pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's a shame that it's not worldwide.
That's right. To be honest, the banks here are better than in um, other places in Europe and in America. The banks are better here, and they will if the money's gone through wire transfer. Um, I've seen quite a bit come back because they passed a new law last year, and I've seen quite a bit come back. But there's very strict rules about what can come back and how they've sent it. So in a way that's quite good. But in another way, scammers are going to get away with what they do
Of course
because
they are.
they have you doing things. I mean, we had a lady the other day who was sending cash. Who was sending cash in parcels.
I was going to
I
say
mean,
in serial. Yeah.
that really speaking, why don't you think that there's something wrong there when they ask for cash?
Mm.
You know, because
And why isn't it flagged, when it's sent internationally?
I don't know. I think it was just somewhere else within the US that they were,
Mm-hmm.
like sending it on and sending it off. But
Oh, okay.
you see, we've got, you know, when I said about pilots and you picked up on the
Mm.
pilots bit, um, they never, when they say what jobs they do, they're an engineer, they're a pilot, they're a general, or there's somebody high in the military. They're somebody really important. Oh, that's very good. They're never men who empty the trash. They're never men who flip burgers in McDonald's. You know, they're never men that gets the little shopping carts in the car park when you go to do your
Mm.
grocery shopping. They're always something.
And they're most likely wearing a uniform.
Oh, women like uniforms.
Mm. Mm.
But they never
Mm-hmm.
have a dime. Well, Gina, you know, what I like, Gina, is when they show you inside their bank accounts and they've got $3.5 million in the current account. Yes, you do. Yes,
Mm.
you do. Um,
They're pretty clever with those, you know, because when
yeah,
my scout gave me his bank account and he gave me the number to ring and the code, pardon me, and I was actually able to hear the amount that was in his
mhm,
bank.
yeah,
And I remember playing it so Ali could hear it. And she said, well, Mum, he's obviously very money wise. And then I thought to myself, months later, they've got programs to do that, to
yeah,
do the false bank accounts,
yeah,
you know, and
always.
it makes me wild.
Well, yeah, the account's always frozen or blocked. But let's go back to our poor little boy that I showed you. I'm a poor African boy. I don't really have a source of income. That's why I do this. Now, I would quite fall for that if he was that poor little boy in a poor little room and he was just sending some words that were trying to be romantic, but it's not. It is the whole industry, because you get fake bank accounts, you get fake parcel tracking accounts, and you get a tracking number and you put it in the website that they give you, and now your parcel is there with your name and address in it and his name and address in it. Yeah, but we love Namecheap.
Mm, mm.
Namecheap, who hosts fake websites, we can post it on our page, we can tag them, and it's gone within an hour. They're
That's
brilliant. They're the only ones,
very
but
pretty.
they're brilliant. But it's not just a little boy in a room who's only scamming because it's his only source of income. Um, Everything is organized. You don't get hosting by email or bad. You don't get, um, you know, if he was just a little boy, I'm just a poor boy, you know, nobody loves me. Um, there wouldn't be these fake accounts. I mean, if you see some of the fake military websites they make, where you can
Mm.
apply for leave and you can apply for this, that, and the other on them, they are very, very clever. So they're not just a little boy sat on his own in a room. This is organized crime on a massive scale.
And it's extremely serious. No, I mean, look, it's just, yeah, it is criminal. It is, and they are. They're hustlers, they're criminals, and picture this, they're working in a room or on their laptops on the floor, and they might have 20 chats open, which means 20 victims all at once.
Yeah.
They are scamming a lot
Well,
of
I told you
victims.
about the one in that the Australian media did, where they set up a sting for a Nigerian, and when they seized his phone, he had 83 live scams ongoing at the time. 83. And that's not
And,
unusual.
mm, and that brings me to another education about that too, and that is you were talking earlier on about what they call you, you know, babe, honey, Hey, beautiful. Hey, pretty,
Yeah.
my queen. And the reason why they do that, everyone, is so they don't get your name.
Yeah. And it's everybody likes being called honey and babe and things like that, and they think it's really, really sweet. But they can't get Sandy mixed up with Gina. They can't say good night, Lisa. Um,
Mm,
sleep well, because Lisa's going to say, "Hey," Sandy's going to say, "Hey, who's Lisa?" And they can't say to
mm,
Gina, "Good night, Jane. Um, my darling, we will get married soon." Gina's going to say, "You married who's Jane?" And they can't, so they call them honey, babe, my queen, dearie, sweetie,
mm,
whatever. And you are just a client to them. Um, and there is no love in a romance scam.
mm, at
In
all.
fact, it's the opposite, but there is no love in a romance scam. And so we've just got to keep going, and we've got to
True.
keep hammering the message out there.
And another thing also with the scams too, pictures, intimate pictures. For
Oh
goodness
yeah.
sake,
So
don't send intimate pictures. The reason for that being is that they can turn the tables on you yet again and blackmail you with those pictures if you don't send them money.
and really, would you like a man to ask you to send an intimate picture? I wouldn't respect anybody who sent me a picture of their good evening. I wouldn't respect anybody who asked me for pictures like that. I mean, believe me, you wouldn't want to see them. You really wouldn't. I'm
My,
a I'm a lot better clothed than I am naked, I can tell you. Um,
I think I told you with my scammer. I said, look, I had to get ready. I had a full day, and I said I've got to go and have a shower. And he said, "Oh, can you take your phone in and take a video of you showering?" And I said to him, "Definitely not. You know, no way."
well, Sandy and I had well, no, sorry, not Sandy and I. am taking credit for something that was completely hers. Um, Sandy had a picture today, and it was one of the other girls. It might have been Kyla actually. Um, and they were trying to work out how they actually got was this a Photoshop picture? Was it a real picture or anything? And it was from the back and a rather sort of pert bottom,
Mm-hmm.
in the mirror. And I said, well, he does have an OnlyFans. And we do know that scammers will go into, pay for a couple of months of OnlyFans to get some really juicy pictures of them.
Like,
So they send them to you. But I'll tell you what, when you are built like Higgins, you might look good naked. When you are built like you're 70 or 80, and I'm not answering for anybody else, but you really don't want to see my bottom because it's not pert. Yes, it was. But mine goes down to my knees, when I take everything off. So, yeah. So, ladies, don't. I mean, have some respect for yourself and say no. Because what you are doing, and think about this, anything that you press send, once it's gone from you forever. And if you are sending, I don't care what you think about, if you're sending naked pictures, you are giving them to somebody and basically giving them permission to do with whatever you want to, whatever they want to, you know? And
mm,
they
and
not,
they'll try.
I mean, they'll say, oh, we're going to post them all over the internet. Well, it's not that easy. But
Mm.
I mean, we had a lovely woman. It's like cottage cheese. I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Mine's just like slappy skin, I think. Um, we had a lovely lady who had sent naked pictures, and they threatened her and threatened her, and we said block them because there's nothing you do not pay. Just do not pay. And she said they were going to send the pictures to her pastor and her family, and they did.
Oh, dear Lord.
And we said just you've got to just brave this out and confess what they've done. And she did. She went to see the pastor, and he was so sorry for her, and he was absolutely gorgeous, and he was lovely, and I helped her get over it, get through it, you know. But we are talking about the lowest of the low of, you know, a dead cockroach is better for the world than one of our scammers. You know, we are talking about the lowest of the low, and they are across the world. They have no connection with you at all. They can do what they like, and they do. And this is the
Oh,
poor little boy who's, I don't have a source of income, that's why I'm doing this. No, it absolutely candy. And that lady was one of the nicest ladies I've ever talked to. And, you know, she felt so awful. And in the end, it was a cup of tea that put it right. Pastor invited her in for a cup of tea, and they ended up having a bit of a laugh about it, you know. Um, and
and you've got to, yeah,
it was
and
nice.
yeah, and you've got to realise too that when the scam stops, well, as we all say, when the money stops, the scam stops,
Yeah.
and that is very, very true, very true. Um, we've just got to keep pushing this, Ruth. I know you might think this is pretty silly, but I personally, I like to always say a little prayer every day when
Yeah.
I scam, with my scam, and it's being transparent and listening, offering support, um, and just giving them the awareness of how the scammers work.
Yeah.
That's what
Because
it's all.
that's vital in, and I always say this, where victims blame the people in the photographs, because if you don't learn that it's not the people in the photographs, it's going to happen again. Because next time a good looking man approaches them, they're going to say, well, I like you very much, but don't you dare ask me for money, because I've been scammed before.
I've heard that
So
one
they've
before.
got to know that it's West African cyber criminals,
Hmm?
and that anybody, any picture that comes to them is going to be those same people, just with a different picture.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it will happen again.
Of
So
course it
I,
will.
I, we will leave everybody with, when all of the money stops, all of the scams stop,
Hmm.
and
And
so
if
that's
anybody
worth fighting for.
and if anybody's in trouble, please, 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 go to Ruth. And she will help you. If you're down here in
No, I
Australia,
refer them
come.
to you. Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah,
no. I refer them to you.
yeah.
Um, Come to talk
It's.
to us, because
Mm,
we do this because we
mm,
care. We don't do
uh,
it because we don't judge. We don't um
we
I've
don't
been
we don't
accused.
we don't
we
shame
don't
you.
we don't victim shame.
No,
I will say that we put something on your shoulders that you've got to get yourself out of it if you're not already out. But that's because we can't get you out. You're the only person that can be brave enough to get out, but we'll stand behind you while you do it.
true.
you know
Ruth, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us.
yeah.
We will continue fighting. We'll continue it has to get out there. We have to, educate. We have to make people aware that they are not in love with that person in the photo.
Nope, they're in love with texts, and they're in love with pictures.
Yeah,
So,
that.
there's nothing wrong with saying no.
Mm. You better get to bed.
Oh, don't tell me.
Well, it must be midnight there because it's 9
It
a.m.
is.
on
It is.
morning.
It's midnight here. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'll do all the downloading and everything in the morning, Kathy.
Yeah, sure. No,
So Thanks very much, everybody. And
Yeah.
we fight the good fight.
Okay.
See you
Bye,
later,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.